well, Maxi, we've come here to the gym, the place which really was a turning point in your career. You were brought in for, let's be honest, a tune-up for John O'Carroll, who come off a career best performance against Scott Quigg. You were brought in just as an opponent and you changed your career around. What's this gym, what's the influence of Sean, Josh, what's it done for you?
Well, so what is it now? I think it's 4 years now. I've been fully, 100% with Sean. He's been in my corner, as a second pair of eyes for quite some years now. But between me and Sean, him as my main trainer, I think it's been 4 years. I think now. But what I've realised that he's done, he's been able to, because I've always had the talent and the ability, but it's always been in gym and sparring.
Yeah.
And what Sean's been able to do is take what I do in here into a ring on fight night where it matters, and to get them performances, and that's what he's done. So, what we're together. We had sort of a tune-up fight after I'd had quite a long layoff, 18-month layoff. Yeah. After the loss of Sam Bowen, that's when it was after that loss that I came to Sean full time. We had a tune-up, and then we were thrown straight in with Liam Walsh, where I lost, but it were a good, in terms of, although I lost, it was a good performance. Yeah. Which Sean always says. He says it takes a couple of fights together for me to be able to bring the best out of you, and really get to know what makes you tick and what I need to say to you to fire you up and stuff like that. So, then we had another, just a steady fight. I think it was just a 4-rounder. In thingy, so that was our third fight together fully, and then was given the opportunity to keep John O'Carroll busy. But we had obviously we weren't going down there to lay down for no man. So Sean, I think we got about 6-7 weeks notice. We was already in gym working. We stepped it up. Sean thought of a game plan. We travelled around for sparring. We had good sparring over at Jamie Moore's gym with Jack Cattrall. Good quality southpaw. Yeah. So we were the best prepared we could be, and we got that win, and from it just sort of spiralled from there.
Did it help you, the fact that that fight was in the middle of a pandemic? And I say that because we've seen the downside of it, certain fighters. Josh, for instance, he likes the crowd noise. But you said you've always been able to do it in the gym, not under the lights, maybe when the pressure's on. Yeah. Was the release valve off then? Did you feel there was less pressure because you've had the losses and it's like, nobody's expecting me to do anything here, I'll just go and show them what I can do?
Not necessarily, because there was nobody there and it were an empty warehouse. Just again, Sean's calming nature and like how we approach a fight, it just says there's no pressure on you. They all think it's about John O'Carroll, it's all about him. So you just go in there and do what you got to do. There's no pressure on you at all, which we were right, and that's how I approached it. And it was a great night, really good. Good couple of days. Obviously we had to go to the hotel, do the COVID test, isolate, and then sort of stay in the hotel. So Sean being himself, down to earth character, and actually winding Jono up a bit. So every time he's seen him, it's like, you do know you're getting beat, Jono, don't you? He says, we don't come here to lie down, and Jono, he just laughed it off. But we upset the script that night.
You did. You talked about how that was a good couple of days, but you've had some days, some darker days where things haven't been as good for you. You mentioned before, one of the losses, you were in a car on the way back and just thought, why am I doing this? And you were thinking about packing it in at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, so I'd had the loss to Sam Bowen, which I wasn't struggling mentally. I was just down. I thought I was going to pack in boxing. When people said, when are you going to be fighting again? I said, I'm not. I'm done. I'm done with this.
So that was it. You already knew.
Yeah. After Sam Bowen, my wife was pregnant with us first, Bobby, and I just thought, I'm going to put my attention on that. Forget boxing for a bit. But I think that's just what I need. When I look back now, I think I just needed the rest from it. It were back down at super featherweight, so the Bowen fight, I couldn't turn it down because it was a chance at a British title. It was good money, so like, you know, I'll make the weight, but it will get him really hard to make the weight. I'm not saying the weight's why I lost. You know, I will just beat, you know, and I've no excuses. But just mentally burnt out from boxing, and I was like, I'm done with this. I've had enough. You know, and it ended up being about, what was it now? About 15 to 18 months out at ring. But just, you know, after nearly, what were it, about after 8-9 months, I decided I was going to come back and give it a go, just see where it went, see what opportunities come. And that's when I'd started working with Sean. You know, we had the comeback fight. Then we got the Liam Walsh fight, which didn't go my way. But again, that's when the journey back from London with Sean for about half an hour till he fell asleep. But then just chatting with Josh and Reese, and Noel, you know, I was just devastated. I was like, I just can't even cut it at domestic level. I just wanted a domestic title, and I'm just not good enough to do it. You know, but just chatting with him, Josh and Reese, all the way back up. You know, when I woke up next day, I sort of was in a bit better, and then I watched the fight back, and I was like, it wasn't a bad performance. You know, I didn't get outclassed, and this is a guy, Liam, who'd only lost to Gervonta Davis. Well, yeah. And look, and like, if it was anybody else other than Gervonta Davis, he fought for a world title, I believe Liam Walsh would have been world champion. Really rate Liam. So, you know, as time went on, I thought, you know, I stopped sulking and, you know, got back in the gym and thought, I am good enough, I am going to get a domestic title. And, you know, that's when, you know, the year after that's when we headed into COVID. You know, and like you said, COVID were a bad time for some fighters, but it were a great time for me. I had some great nights in COVID.
Yeah, COVID provided you with opportunity, and that led to British titles, Commonwealth, all the way to a career-defining night in many ways against Giovanni Straffon. But in the build-up to that fight, I remember being in this gym and you were still working at the time, and you'd just managed to shelve that and go full-time. Has that took a big sort of weight off your mind and off your shoulders? Because I can't imagine doing a full-time job as well as training for something as brutal as boxing's helpful at all. It
was tough, really tough. But I'd managed to... I sacrificed 6 weeks at work before the Straffon fight, obviously with the intentions of going back to work after the fight. So I took 6 weeks off unpaid, you know, give everything to this fight, because I thought if I win this, could change, you know, things could turn around, you know, which it did. So, you know, I was writ off as the underdog again. But I remember that interview, I says, every fighter has that career-defining night, and I give an example of Calzaghe v Jeff Lacey, when he put on such a great performance. And I thought, and I think I said to you that this is going to be my night, you know, and it turned out a quality performance like that, winning every round. And it was. I did have to go back to work after, but I ended up with 3 weeks at work after that, and then I got my lucky break from a sponsorship, and you know, I've been able to be full-time since that.
Yeah, the Straffon win, for people who don't know, he beat a guy, James Tennyson, who is you know, an absolutely brilliant fighter, one of the hardest punchers in your division. Yeah, and I can say that because I've been a sparring partner of his, and he really does really hit that hard. He was the hardest puncher you've been hit with. Yeah. So you went there with a guy who was, a lot of people saying, I remember Johnny Nelson saying that James Tennyson could compete with a Gervonta Davis, and you went in there, and it wasn't just a victory; it was a complete whitewash from top to bottom. What was that moment like at the end, when you must have known you'd won, but there's always doubts when you get to a stalkout, especially in boxing, and you get announced as "I'm the new"?
I felt like I thought, surely I've won this. That's why I think when I heard
you can't have had any doubts.
I heard the 12th round, I heard the bang, bang, bang for last 10, and even though I knew he was still dangerous right up to the final bell, I gave it a little thing.
Flash it.
But my instructions for the last 4 rounds were, just don't get it, because you're absolutely flying. You're easing this. Just don't get it. Don't do it stupid. So I thought, you know, Sean's not going to lie to me. You know, I fully trust him. So, you know, I did like a little celebratory lap as soon as the bell had gone. I thought, there's no way they can take this from me. You know, and it were right every round, won every single round. So yeah, what a night it was here. You know, fond memories.
Do you think when you look back now, there'd be other fighters that look at your journey and think you were that close to packing it in, and then you got that moment in front of a big crowd, and it's like, well, if you know someone can go through a career and have the losses and come back, you're a bit of an example of, you know, it can be done. I mean, formerly known as the Cinderella Man, but you're not anymore because. What did you say to me? I'm not anymore because I proved I am that good. Yeah,
it's almost like they give me the nickname Cinderella Man because I'd fluked it. You know, oh, he's managed to get a win. It's like, no, I am this good. I've just started putting it all together and, you know, proving people I have been good. I mean, it's not like I've been a 50-50 career. I've only lost, 4 or 5 fights. Yeah. But the level that I'd lost at, every fighter who I've lost to has been British champion. Like Martin Ward has been Commonwealth, European, fought in a world title eliminator. Liam Walsh fought Javonte Davis for the world title. So I've lost in good company. It's not like I've been beat by guys who I was supposed to be beating. I was always the underdog and probably will always be the underdog, which, you know, I don't mind that. But, you know, the level I'd lost at, there's been narrow, you know, only narrow losses. But what the thing is, what I've done is I've took away from them losses, learnt from them, and now that, you know, that stands me in good stead for fights going forward. You know, same as my last fight, you know, I'm skipping ahead, like the fight I had with Kid Galahad. Very hard fight technically, you know, probably not the greatest to watch, but I can take so much from that because it was such a hard, tricky fight that's going to stand me in better stead going forward. You know, so I'm getting hard quality rounds against the best opposition, so it's only going to stand me instead, which the losses have done.
I remember before the Galahad fight, there was, obviously you'd signed with Matchroom, but there was talks of you fighting Ryan Garcia. You're actually DMing each other on Instagram. Was it a bit deflating, the fact that you went from potentially getting that life-changing money, which Eddie sort of promised and said, oh look, we're going to get you that, and then to get Kid Galahad, who was, let's be honest, former world champion, but it was sort of high risk, but in terms of not much at the end of it for you for winning. What did you think when you sort of went from that to that? Yeah,
and obviously we're a bit deflated. I was gutted about not getting the Garcia fight, but then, you know, I got given a date, 24th September. But it was signed on, got told it was signed and sealed to fight Jorge Linares, which again, fight up there, you know, former, you know, probably might get inducted to Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
So, and I've been a fan of his for years. So to be able to share a ring with somebody like that shows how far I've come. But again, at last minute that fell through. So to then be like, right, it's Kid Galahad. You know, and as soon as I mentioned it to Sean, he's like, I'll just tell you now, you won't look good against him. And it was simple. He says, you'll beat him, but you won't look good against him. And you know, it's turned out that's the way it done. But again, I said the most important thing is for me is to win, which I got. You know, it was hard to look good against him because he's so good at what he does, at nullifying people. But again, I've not come out with it as much credit as I would have liked to, and I was at a fault because, you know, Kid Galahad has won everything: British, Commonwealth, European, world title. Only lost at world level to Josh and Kiko. No, is a good fighter, good fighter. But yeah, I beat him, even though I wasn't supposed to. I was the underdog again. But I've not got a lot of credit. Which that's the most deflating bit. Is like, you know, I've just beaten a world class fighter. I've not, you know, not coming out with loads of credit. You know, the only good thing, I suppose, I've moved up the rankings. My career's progressed. I've got a good payday. You know, I've gone into the top 10 rankings with the IBF, number 12 with WBC, and now I've just found out the other day I'm the top 10 with a Ring magazine, which, you know, it's
prestigious.
Yeah, after losing Sam Bone, it's like, you know, if someone says don't matter about that loss, you're still going to be in top 10 with Ring magazine. And we're like, what? But, you know, but through perseverance and resilience, I'm here.
Do you think it's a bit the same with boxing all over? Because when you see a fighter fight someone who's who's good, like a Galahad. Because he was maybe coming off a loss. If you beat him, you don't get the credit. But then if he beat you, it'd be, well, he's been a former world champion. Do you think it's just the double-edged sword that we get in boxing all the time?
I think it's just the cards I'm dealt with. I'm obviously signed and backed by Matchroom, but I'm not one of the front runners. That's clear to see in promotion, but I accept it's the card I'm dealt. As we've seen earlier, I'm from a little mining village.
Yeah.
Always the underdog, so never expected to do well, but I keep doing it, keep delivering. Maybe when I'm long and retired, people might look back and say, you know what, he was good. He did do this, he did do that, but it don't matter. I get the credit, amongst my gym mates, people in this gym, at home with my family. They give me the credit, so ultimately that's all that matters to me.
It is all that matters, but ultimately now in boxing, nobody seems to get credit until they retire, and you hear even with people who finish their career undefeated, you only hear the good stuff when they've gone. They go, you know what, he was quite good, but you're on a great run of form at the minute. So, what is next for you? What do you want to do? Obviously, Ryan Garcia looks like he's fighting Javonte Davis. So, what signifies a big fight that you can really get your teeth into?
Well, I know Eddie keeps saying he wants to deliver me the life-changing fight, but sort of the guys who are going to pay that sort of money are all sort of, you've got Devin who holds the cards in the lightweight division.
Yeah.
He looks like he's fighting Loma. Obviously, you've got Tank fighting Garcia. So they're the top end names. So what I said to Eddie is, I'm ranked high with the IBF, so let's go down that route. Let me get to a mandatory position so that it's not on you to try and get me it. I'm going to get that opportunity because I'm mandatory. The people who've got the belt won't have nowhere to go but fight me. So, if you can't get it me, let's make sure that I get it.
In terms of, like you mentioned with the promotion stuff, you don't feel like you're a front runner, but you've fought however many fights since this winning sort of run's been put together as the underdog with a chip on your shoulder. Do you think you perform better with that chip on your shoulder? Because each fight, even the Galahad fight you mentioned, even though he was moving up in weight, he was the favourite. And you've just come off beating the Walsh, Straffon, and then everything you did, COVID. Do you fight better with a bit of that bit between your teeth and people doubting you?
I don't rely on it. Don't get me wrong, I can use it as fuel, but it's not something I rely on. I motivate myself, and I just find it laughable that people just keep writing me off. And I think, great, I can take that away and use it as fuel for training. But it just sometimes laughable that I'm constantly written off, even though, what is it now, I think 7 fights I've gone on unbeaten. So it's I don't like I say, I don't rely on it, but it is what it is.
Well, Maxi, if all the stars align and things happen, when you look at that division, Devin Haney, we're all told, looks like he'll have the fight with Lomachenko, then move up in weight. Could be a case of the belts get fragmented. If you get yourself in that position where you are fighting for a number 2 spot, and then you get to being eliminated for a mandatory or whatever happens, we could be looking at Maxi Hughes challenging for a world title pretty soon.
Yeah. As Floyd Mayweather says, I'll continue dedicating myself to my craft. And if them belts come vacant and all there, I'll just, I'm going to be in prime position. I'll snatch one up, and we can have this conversation at back end of the year and say, here we are, another strap. Even though I wasn't supposed to win it, but we're here with it.
Can you imagine if you still have doubters if you take one of them belts?
I would have.
Do you think you get, if you say you turn up with an IBF, WBC, any of them belts, because no disrespect to the IBO, they always see them for. So if you turn up with one of them belts, do you still think you have the doubters?
Yeah, because what they'd say is...
It was a vacant belt.
It was a vacant belt. He only got it because Haney had vacated it,
You called Haney out for years, to be fair, as well.
Yeah.
You've tried.
I even spoke to him on Twitter about something. He replied to one of my tweets. But again, that's the card I'm dealt. But I accept what I'm dealt, and I spoke about it with my missus. She says, even if you did win one, you still would have doubters. I'd still have people. I still get it now. People call me a journeyman because I've lost out of 33 fights. I've lost 5, so I'm a journeyman. It's like, but ultimately, then people on Twitter, it's mainly Twitter because that's where all negative stuff is, I don't, I see it, but it doesn't bother me. I don't lose sleep over it because, I just know they're all jealous. They all want to be in my position, and it must, there's certain people, it must, if I've got haters, it must pain them to see me do well. And, every fight I win, it's like, oh, fucking hell, he's won again. Fuck's sake. But, it's all good for me and it's not good for them, isn't it?
Your family, obviously, I know you've got a couple of young kids, missus at home. How important are they to you on this journey? What sort of motivation do they give you?
I think what helps is I've got a good, stable home life. My missus, like, as a family, we don't rely on my boxing to keep us afloat. So it's very much, for me, it's passion driven. Obviously, I want to provide a better life with Eddie dangling this carrot of the life-changing fight, which can give us a good life. But, if I didn't box, my missus would provide that anyway with how hard she's worked and how much she provides with her job. She's got a very good job. She's done very good for us as a family. But I use especially my kids. Both kids have come in here and watched me train, and it's good to see because I can be a role model for them to say, my dad left school with nothing, not a great education, because the school education system just wasn't for me. I won't say I'm stupid, it just school wasn't for me.
Not academic.
Yeah, he's found something he loves and he's made it a job. So if I can provide, inspiration for them to do whatever they want, so I can use that. But just like last year, we got to go on 3 holidays through boxing.
Wow. So
seeing the little faces, how happy they are on holiday, as long as I teach them values and they're not spoilt bastards, then that's what I use. I want to see them happy by taking them away, and we're not spoiling them material. We don't spoil them materialistic things. Just the main thing is I continue to do this. I can be at home more, so I can spoil them with my time, like I was spoilt as a kid with my nanas and my other family's time. I can spoil them with time and being with them.
Absolutely. Well, look, Maxi, we've spent a lot of time today. Appreciate it as always. We'll catch up later on in the year, but for now, look, good luck for the rest of this year. We hope you get that big fight. I mean, you've been promised it.
Yeah.
We're all waiting. Maxi Hughes train's been...
It's been parked up in station, eh? Just need that conductor to set it up.
Moving it along.
Yeah. Everyone's got fans kicking off for us on train.
Well, fingers crossed it happens for you. We'll catch up later on in the year, so appreciate your time.
Nice one, mate. Thank you.